The Hunter's Call. The vast chamber of the Galactic Assembly fell silent as the holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. Representatives from 200 species watched in horror as another world burned. Lumeria, once home to 12 billion souls, now glowed with the telltale orange-red of planetary bombardment. The mighty spires of its crystal cities melted under relentless fire from orbit. "This is the 17th world lost this cycle," announced High Chancellor Vexxar, his normally luminescent skin now dim with despair. The six-limbed Nilarian's voice echoed through the chamber. "The Vexxar Dominion advances without pause. Their fleet now approaches the Arcturus system." Whispers filled the hall as the implications became clear. Arcturus was merely 3 jumps from most of their core worlds. General Kirtal of the Assembly Defense Fleet rose from her seat, her exoskeleton clicking as she moved toward the central platform. The insectoid commander's compound eyes reflected the burning planet in the hologram. "We dispatched our 7th Fleet to intercept them at Lemuria," she stated flatly. 22,000 ships from 37 member worlds. Our most advanced vessels with our most experienced crews. She paused, mandibles twitching. They lasted 7 hours. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Some called for immediate surrender. Others demanded the evacuation of border worlds to consolidate defenses. A few even suggested using forbidden weapons, planet killers that would violate the Assembly's most sacred laws. "The Vexxar cannot be reasoned with," continued Kirtal when the noise subsided. "Their hive-mind collective views all other life as either food or competition. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They consume and expand." The hologram shifted to display the Vexxar fleet. Tens of thousands of chitinous, asymmetrical vessels that resembled deep-sea predators, surrounded by clouds of smaller craft like swarms of parasites. At the center loomed their command ship, a massive structure 20 kilometers long, shaped like an ancient sea scorpion. Ambassador Laurie Schmidt, the human representative, had remained silent throughout the proceedings. Earth had only joined the Assembly 30 years ago, after discovering the ruins of an ancient jump gate in their solar system and reactivating it. Humanity's late arrival to galactic civilization had been met with suspicion and tight restrictions. "Perhaps," Schmidt said, standing slowly, "it's time to try something different." All eyes in the chamber turned toward the human. Chancellor Vexxar tilted his head. "Different, Ambassador. We have deployed every weapon, every strategy in the combined tactical archive. Our finest minds have." "That's exactly the problem," Schmidt interrupted. "You're fighting by the book, a book the Vexxar have studied for centuries. They know every move before you make it." Kirtal's antennae twitched with irritation. "And what would humans suggest? Your species has barely mastered interstellar travel. Your ships are slower, your weapons less advanced, and your tactics considered primitive by Assembly standards." Schmidt smiled. "Precisely." She stepped to the central platform and waved her hand, replacing the hologram with an image of a sleek, matte black vessel. It was angular where Assembly ships were curved, compact where the standard doctrine favored distributed systems, and it carried no visible weapons. "This is the Earth space vessel Nightshade, a stealth destroyer." "Stealth," scoffed a representative from the technologically advanced Moran Collective. "Impossible in space. Our sensors can detect a vessel's heat signature from half a system away." "I'm aware of your capabilities," Schmidt replied calmly. "Yet this ship has been orbiting your homeworld for the past 17 days, and none of your defense networks detected it." The chamber exploded in outrage. Chancellor Vexxar's skin flashed with colored patterns of alarm. "This is an outrageous violation of—" "A demonstration," Schmidt corrected. "One that proves my point. The Nightshade returned to Earth space yesterday. No shots fired, no data stolen. Just proof that humans think differently." She gestured, and the hologram shifted again, this time showing a human woman with copper skin, close-cropped black hair, and eyes that held both intelligence and something the Assembly representatives found unsettling: unpredictability. Captain Elias, former Earth Naval Intelligence. She and her crew of 38 specialists volunteer for this mission. What mission? Demanded Kirtal. To stop the Vrax at Arcturus, Schmidt said simply. One ship, no assembly observers, no oversight committee, no tactical constraints. Laughter rippled through the chamber, quickly fading when they realized the human was serious. Absurd, Kirtal declared. One ship against the Vrax Armada. The defense fleet committed thousands and failed. Your thousands fought exactly as the Vrax expected, Schmidt countered. Humans have a different history. While your civilizations evolved through cooperation and consensus, ours was forged in conflict. We spent millennia fighting each other before we found peace. That experience has value now. You propose sending barbarians to fight monsters, said a Vorian diplomat, his gaseous form swirling in agitation. Schmidt nodded. Sometimes that's exactly what's needed. After hours of debate, desperation won out over skepticism. The assembly had nothing to lose. The Nightshade would depart for Arcturus immediately, with full operational autonomy. As Ambassador Schmidt left the chamber, Chancellor Vexxos caught up with her in the corridor. This is suicide, he said quietly. Schmidt's expression remained neutral. Perhaps, but humans have a long history of accomplishing the impossible. Why only one ship? Vexxos pressed. Surely your government could spare more. Schmidt smiled enigmatically. One is all we need. The ESV Nightshade hung in Earth orbit, its carbon black hull absorbing rather than reflecting light, making it seem like a void against the stars. Unlike the gleaming, elegant vessels of the assembly, the human ship was purpose-built for war. On the bridge, Captain Elias studied the mission briefing one final time. At 42, she had the bearing of someone who had seen combat, but the sharp eyes of a tactician who had survived it through wit rather than luck. Final systems check complete, Captain, reported Commander Eli Chen from the operations console. Stealth systems nominal. Weapons hot but dormant. Jump drives spooled and ready. Maya nodded, then opened the ship-wide comm. This is the captain. You all know our mission. The Vexxar Dominion has cut a path of destruction across 17 worlds. The Assembly's conventional forces have failed to stop them. We're being sent in not because we have better ships or weapons, but because we fight differently. She paused, looking around at her bridge crew, engineers, tacticians, and specialists handpicked for their unconventional thinking. The Vrax are a hive mind. They coordinate perfectly and adapt quickly, but their greatest strength is also their vulnerability. They think as one, which means they have blind spots that individualistic species like us can exploit. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. Lieutenant Commander Talia Jones, the Chief Tactical Officer, swiveled in her chair. Ma'am, final payload status confirms all disruptors are calibrated to Vrax neural frequencies. Good, Dr. Okafor. The ship's xenobiologist looked up from his station. Neural mapping complete, Captain. If the intelligence is correct, the primary node should be distinguishable from secondary command structures once we're close enough to scan directly. Maya turned to her executive officer. Commander Blackwood, are your boarding teams ready? The tall, scarred veteran nodded. 4 squads, all volunteers, all briefed on the exact nature of the mission. They understand the risks. This isn't about heroics, Maya reminded everyone. This is about surgical precision. The Assembly tried overwhelming force and failed. We're going to be the virus that infects their system. She took her command chair and accessed the secure comms. Ambassador Schmidt's face appeared on her private screen. Captain Rice, the Assembly is monitoring your departure. They're still skeptical. Maya smiled grimly. Let them be. We work better as underdogs. The President wanted me to relay a message, Schmidt continued. This mission has implications beyond saving Arcturus. If you succeed, it changes humanity's standing in the galaxy. If you fail. If we fail, Earth stands alone against the Vrax. Maya finished. I'm aware of the stakes. Ambassador. Schmidt nodded. Godspeed, Captain. The communication ended, and Maya turned to her navigator. Lieutenant Park, plot jump sequence to Arcturus. Will emerge at the system's edge, dark side of the outer moon. Course plotted, Captain. Maya took a deep breath. Engage. The nightshade vanished from Earth orbit in a brief flash of gravitational distortion, leaving behind a galaxy of races who had placed their final hope in a species they had once feared and marginalized. The hunter had been called, and it was answering. 5 days later, the nightshade slipped silently into the Arcturus system. Their stealth systems, incorporating both advanced technology and unconventional methodology, kept them invisible to standard detection arrays. While assembly ships relied on active countermeasures against sensors, the humans had mastered passive concealment, heat sinks, radiation absorption, and signal mimicry that made them appear as nothing more than background noise. From the command deck, Maya watched the tactical display. The Vexxar fleet had arrived 2 days earlier and established orbit around Arcturus IV, the system's inhabited world. 3 billion sentients lived on its surface, members of the aquatic Murian civilization. They had already begun their desperate evacuation, but their ships were being methodically intercepted and destroyed. "They're taking their time," observed Commander Blackwood, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Toying with the evacuation ships." "They're feeding," Dr. Okafor corrected. The Vexxar derive psychological sustenance from fear as much as physical sustenance from biomatter. They're farming terror. Maya studied the pattern of the Vexxar ships. Unlike the rigid formations of assembly fleets, the Vexxar moved in flowing, organic patterns, like predators circling wounded prey. "There," she said, pointing to a cluster of signals near the planet's largest moon. "That's their neural hub. The queen ship stays back, coordinating through secondary nodes. Standard predator behavior. The alpha doesn't risk itself in the hunt." Lieutenant Commander Jones looked up from her tactical station. "We have firing solutions for the disruptors, Captain, but at this range, the effect will be limited." "We're not firing yet," Maya replied. "First, we study our prey." For the next 12 hours, the nightshade observed silently. The crew documented Vexxar communication patterns, response times, and coordination behaviors. They watched as assembly rescue ships arrived and were swiftly destroyed, their tactics predictable and ineffective against the swarming Vexxar vessels. "They respond to new threats within 8.3 seconds, reported Lieutenant Chen from his analysis station. "That's the neural transmission delay from the outer fleet units to the command ship and back. Faster than any traditional command structure, but not instantaneous." "That's our window," Maya said. "Dr. Okafor, have you isolated the frequency?" The xenobiologist nodded. "The Vexxar hive mind operates on a modulated delta wave neural pattern. Our disruptors are calibrated. At close range, they should create enough interference to temporarily sever the connection between the outer fleet and the command nodes." "Temporarily being the key word," added Jones. "We'll have minutes at most before they adapt." Maya smiled, a predator's expression. "Minutes is all we need. Here's the plan." As she outlined her strategy, even her hand-picked crew of unconventional thinkers exchanged glances of disbelief. It wasn't just risky. It was the kind of plan that violated every principle of conventional space warfare. Exactly the kind of plan the Vexxar would never anticipate. "Questions?" Maya asked when she finished. Commander Blackwood cleared his throat. "Just one, Captain. When do we start?" Maya checked the chronometer. "We strike at 400 ship time, when the Vexxar are most focused on the latest evacuation wave." Her eyes hardened. "It's time to show the galaxy why humans were kept at arm's length all these years. Not because we're primitive, but because we're dangerous." As the crew prepared for battle, Maya sent one final message to Earth, knowing it might be her last. "The hunt begins. The Phantom Strike." The ESV Nightshade drifted silently through the debris field of a destroyed Murian freighter, using the scattered fragments as additional camouflage. Captain Maya Rice stood at the tactical display, watching as another civilian evacuation ship was surrounded by the insectoid Vrax vessels. The predators were playing with their prey, disabling engines and life support systems methodically before boarding to harvest both resources and living captives. "They're consistent," Maya observed. "Each attack follows the same pattern: disable, immobilize, board, consume. Their efficiency would be admirable if it weren't so horrific." Commander Blackwood's jaw tightened. "We could save that ship, Captain. We're in range." "And reveal ourselves prematurely," Maya replied, her voice steady despite the screams coming through the emergency channel. "We're here to save billions, not dozens. Stay focused." The bridge crew worked in tense silence, each feeling the weight of their inaction. But they understood the mission parameters. The Nightshade was humanity's one shot at stopping the Vrax advance. Revealing themselves too soon would mean failure. "All teams report ready, Captain," announced Lieutenant Commander Jones from Tactical. "Disruptors charged to maximum capacity. Strike teams on standby." Maya nodded. "Dr. Okafor, final analysis." The xenobiologist looked up from his station, where he'd been studying real-time data on Vrax neural patterns. "The hive mind is fully engaged with the harvest operations. Their attention is divided between multiple boarding actions. This is our optimal window." "Lieutenant Park, bring us to attack position," Maya ordered. "Silent running until my mark." The Nightshade glided through space, its advanced propulsion system leaving no detectable exhaust trail. Unlike assembly ships with their bright energy signatures, the human vessel moved like a shark through dark water, felt rather than seen. "In position, Captain," Park reported. 5,000 kilometers from the nearest Vrax sensor node. Maya took a deep breath. What they were about to attempt had never been done before. The assembly's tactical simulations gave them a 0.03% chance of success, but the simulations didn't account for human unpredictability. "Execute Phase 1, she commanded. At her word, the Nightshade launched 3 small, autonomous craft, each barely larger than a shuttle. These weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They carried no explosives, no energy cannons. Instead, they contained powerful neural disruptors calibrated to the exact frequency of the Vrax hive mind. "Drones away," reported Jones. "Tracking normal. No reaction from Vrax fleet." The drones accelerated toward 3 different points in the Vrax formation, their stealth systems as advanced as their motherships. On the tactical display, Maya watched their progress with calculated intensity. "Time to intercept." 73 seconds to optimal position," Jones answered. Maya opened the shipwide comm. "All hands, prepare for Phase 2. Combat teams to drop pods. Engineering, ready surge capacitors." The seconds ticked by as the crew braced for what would come next. The Vrax continued their methodical destruction, oblivious to the threat approaching from multiple vectors. "Drones in position," Jones announced. Maya's eyes narrowed. "Activate disruptors." Full power. 3 pinpoints of light flared on the tactical display as the drones released their payload. Not explosive energy, but targeted neural interference that rippled through the Vrax communication network. The effect was instantaneous and spectacular. Across the battlefield, Vrax ships suddenly broke formation. Some drifted aimlessly, while others began firing randomly into space. Several collided with each other as coordinated movement collapsed. "Direct hit on their neural network," exclaimed Dr. Okafor, excitement breaking through his scientific detachment. "Hive mind connection severed between command nodes and approximately 68% of their fleet." "How long?" Maya demanded. "Based on adaptive patterns, 4 minutes, possibly 5 before they establish countermeasures." "That's our window," Maya said sharply. "Execute Phase 2. The Nightshade dropped its stealth protocols and surged forward, weapons systems coming online. But instead of attacking the disoriented Vrax ships, it accelerated directly toward the massive command vessel at the center of the formation. "Launch strike teams Alpha through Delta," ordered Commander Blackwood. From the Nightshade's ventral bays, 4 specialized assault craft detached and rocketed toward different points on the Vexxar command ship's hull. Each carried a team of 7 human operators, not soldiers in the traditional sense, but specialists trained for a very specific mission. "Strike teams away," reported Lieutenant Chen from operations. "Defensive systems still active around the command ship." "Expected," Maya replied. "Commence diversion protocol." The Nightshade opened fire, not with its main weapons, but with a barrage of modified missiles. These weapons contain no warheads, only powerful electromagnetic pulses and more neural disruptors. They detonated in a sphere around the Vexxar command ship, creating a cascading wave of electronic interference. On the massive command vessel, automated defense systems faltered as contradictory commands flooded their circuits. The confusion created brief gaps in their coverage, exactly what the human strike teams needed. "Alpha Team has breached the outer hull," reported Commander Blackwood, monitoring the assault team's progress. "Beta and Charlie encountering resistance. Delta Team is offline." Maya accepted the news without visible reaction. They had anticipated casualties. Maintain suppression fire. Keep their attention divided. The Nightshade continued its attack pattern, darting in and out of weapons range, firing precisely calculated bursts to create maximum confusion. Unlike the predictable tactics of assembly fleets, the human ship moved erratically, never establishing a pattern the Vexxar could analyze and counter. "Captain," called Jones urgently, "the disruptor's effect is weakening. Vexxar ships are beginning to reorganize. Estimated 2 minutes until full neural cohesion is restored. All we need is one team." Maya replied, her focus unwavering. "Status of Alpha." Commander Blackwood checked his display. "They've penetrated to the tertiary neural conduit, deploying the package now." On board the Vexxar command ship, Alpha Team fought through passageways designed for insectoid anatomy. The atmosphere was thick with pheromones and spores that would have been lethal without their specialized environmental suits. Leading them was Lieutenant Sophia Diaz, the Nightshade's infiltration specialist. "Central node ahead," she reported back to the ship. "Heavy resistance. We've lost Martinez and Kurosawa." "Can you deploy?" came Commander Blackwood's voice through the static. Diaz checked the device strapped to her back, a specialized neural transmitter developed by Dr. Okafor. "Affirmative. 30 seconds to deployment." She motioned to her remaining team members, who laid down covering fire as she sprinted toward the pulsating organic structure at the center of the chamber. The Vexxar defenders, drone workers controlled directly by the hive mind, reacted with uncoordinated aggression, their normal tactical precision compromised by the ongoing neural disruption. Diaz reached the neural node and attached the device directly to its fibrous surface. Package connected. Initiating upload. Back on the Nightshade, Dr. Okafor's hands flew across his console, receiving connection. Beginning transmission sequence. Maya watched the progress bar on her display. What they were attempting went beyond conventional warfare. It wasn't about destroying the Vexxar, it was about fundamentally changing them. "Vexxar fleet reorganizing," warned Jones. 3 destroyer analogs moving to intercept. "Main weapons charging." "Evasive pattern echo," Maya ordered. "Keep us alive for 40 more seconds." The Nightshade twisted through space, pushing its inertial compensators to their limits. The crew endured crushing forces as the ship performed maneuvers that would have torn apart a conventional vessel. Vexxar energy beams sliced through the void where they had been milliseconds before. "Transmission at 60%, reported Dr. Okafor. 70, 80. "Alpha Team reports critical situation." Blackwood cut in. "They're surrounded." Maya's expression remained impassive. "Can they hold?" "Unknown, Captain. Lost contact with Diaz." The tactical display showed the Vexxar fleet fully re-establishing formation. Their neural network had adapted to the disruptors as expected. The Nightshade was now outnumbered thousands to 1, with no possibility of escape. "Transmission complete," announced Dr. Okafor suddenly. Package successfully uploaded to primary neural matrix. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The Vrax continued their advance. The Nightshade continued its desperate evasive maneuvers. Then, abruptly, every Vrax ship in the system powered down its weapons. "What's happening?" demanded Commander Blackwood. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Phase 3. On the main view screen, the Vrax command ship's communication array activated, transmitting a wide-spectrum broadcast. The message was short and repeated in all known galactic languages. "We stand. We Giwareo." It worked, breathed Dr. Okafor, disbelief coloring his voice. It actually worked. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the Vrax fleet began to reorient, turning away from the inhabited planet and aligning for jump coordinates out of the system. "Would someone mind explaining what just happened?" asked Lieutenant Park from navigation. Maya turned to Dr. Okafor, who stood and addressed the bridge. "The Vrax hive mind evolved as an apex predator," he explained. "Their neural structure is designed for perfect coordination in hunting and warfare, but it lacks certain concepts. Their language has no words for empathy, cooperation between species, or mutual benefit. These are literally unthinkable concepts to them." He gestured to his console, where complex neural patterns scrolled across the screen. "What we uploaded wasn't a weapon. It was language, specifically cognitive structures that allow for concepts the Vrax couldn't previously process. We gave them the neural architecture to understand something new. We taught them empathy." Commander Blackwood asked skeptically. "Not exactly," Maya interjected. "We taught them that there are alternatives to predation. That cooperation can be more beneficial than consumption." She looked around at her crew. "Humans aren't just dangerous because we fight differently. We're dangerous because we think differently." The comm system crackled to life, a weak signal from the Vrax command ship. "This is Lieutenant Diaz. Alpha Team has 3 survivors. We've been invited to discuss terms." Maya's eyebrows rose. "Invited?" "Yes, Captain," came Diaz's tired voice. "The Vrax Queen wishes to speak with human representatives. She says we're the first species they've encountered that they couldn't predict. The first to surprise them in 10,000 years." 3 weeks later, Captain Maya Rice stood again in the Great Hall of the Galactic Assembly. The chamber was packed beyond capacity, representatives from every member world crowding to witness the historic session. Chancellor Vexxos called for order, his skin pulsing with patterns of amazement and lingering disbelief. "This council recognizes Captain Maya Rice of Earth," he announced formally, "who has accomplished what our combined fleets could not: the cessation of Vrax aggression and the establishment of the first diplomatic channel with their dominion." Maya stepped forward to murmurs of awe and respect. Beside her stood a Vrax emissary, a specialized diplomatic drone connected directly to the hive mind. Its presence in the assembly chamber would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. "I come bearing a message from Earth," Maya began, her voice carrying through the vast hall. "And from the Vrax Dominion." She gestured to the emissary, who stepped forward. Its insectoid mandibles moved in patterns that translated through an audio system into words all could understand. "The Dominion acknowledges a new paradigm," it stated. "For eons, we have known only consumption and expansion. Humans have shown us another path: coexistence. We request formal recognition and the establishment of boundaries for peaceful interaction." The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. General Kirtal's antennae twitched violently as she rose from her seat. "How can we trust this?" she demanded. "The Vrax have destroyed hundreds of worlds." "Because they literally couldn't conceive of alternatives," Maya replied calmly. "Their neural structure didn't allow for it. Now it does." Ambassador Schmidt stepped forward to join Maya. "The Human Confederation proposes a new role for Earth within the Assembly, as intermediaries and, when necessary, defenders. Our ships will patrol the borders between Vrax space and Assembly worlds, ensuring the peace holds." Chancellor Vexxos considered this. You wish to be our protectors. Your fleet consists of a single vessel. Maya smiled. For now. But the Nightshade was a prototype. Others are being constructed as we speak. The implications weren't lost on the Assembly representatives. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities that none had predicted. Their unorthodox thinking had succeeded where millennia of conventional warfare had failed. The Vracs respect humans, added the emissary. You think as individuals yet act as one when needed. You understand both predator and prey. You are unexpected. After hours of debate, the Assembly voted. Earth would be granted a special status, no longer restricted and monitored, but elevated to a position of responsibility. Human ships would serve as the first line of defense against any future threats, and human diplomats would lead the delicate negotiations with the changing Vexxar Dominion. As the session concluded, General Kirtal approached Maya privately. I still don't understand how you did it, the insectoid commander admitted. One ship against thousands. Impossible odds. Maya considered her answer carefully. The Assembly has spent millennia perfecting cooperation and harmony. Noble goals, but humanity's history took a different path. We've spent our existence fighting, sometimes each other, sometimes our own nature. We understand conflict in ways peaceful species cannot. She looked toward the stars visible through the chamber's vast windows. The galaxy needs both types of civilization, those who build peace and those who understand war well enough to prevent it. Perhaps that's humanity's role now. Not conquerors, not victims, but guardians. Kirtal's compound eyes studied the human captain, and if new threats emerge, ones even humans cannot outthink. Maya's expression turned serious. Then we'll adapt. That's what humans do best. As Maya departed the chamber to return to the Nightshade, Ambassador Schmidt fell into step beside her. The President asked me to convey his congratulations, Schmidt said, and to inform you that 7 more ships of the Nightshade class will be operational within the year. Maya nodded. We'll need them. The Vracs are changing, but change takes time, and there are other dangers in the dark between stars. Dangers the Assembly doesn't yet recognize. Dangers no one recognizes until they arrive, Maya corrected. But humans will be ready. We've always been at our best when facing the impossible. The two walked in silence for a moment before Schmidt asked the question that had been bothering many in the Assembly. What happens if the Vracs revert to their old ways? If this neural restructuring fails? Maya's eyes hardened. Then they'll discover that humans didn't show them our full capabilities. What they saw was our mercy, not our might. As the Nightshade prepared to depart for its new patrol route along the borders of Vrac space, Captain Maya Rise looked at the stars on her view screen. For millennia, humanity had looked to the heavens and wondered if they were alone. Now they knew they weren't. And they also knew their place in the cosmic order. Not the strongest, not the wisest, but perhaps the most adaptable, the most unpredictable, and when necessary, the most dangerous. The silent predators who hunted only to protect. The galaxy's reluctant guardians had answered the call, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next.